In requirements for digital journalism at Georgia Court University, I am Melanie Coleman, and this is Broadcast Journalism, Techniques of Radio and Television News, Chapter 11, Broadcast News Style Book. Most broadcast organizations have a view about good news, and although they differ in detail, most would agree that good style plus good sense usually equals good news. Each newsroom has its own style guide, which is a directory of frequently asked questions about how that organization's staff should spell certain words, write sentences, structure information, and conduct presentation tactics. The Associated Press Style Book is widely used across the world as a writing and editing reference in newsrooms, which provides fundamental guidelines for spelling, language, punctuation, usage, and journalistic style. Keeping the on-air brand strong of a newsroom is important in maintaining its success. Audience members and listeners alike need to be clear about what to expect, and with the broadcast news style guide, it is easy to interpret the information being presented. News anchors also have a sense of confidence in knowing that all finished broadcasts are consistent across the board. And lastly, a key purpose of the broadcast news style guide is so that editors are not overworked. They do not have to worry about rewriting copy that could have been written correctly. Writing for broadcast is writing to read aloud. Sentences should be broken down into groups of meaning, and these should be separated by visible pauses, not just semicolons or colons, because they are too similar to the full stop of a period or a comma. Remember that punctuation and spelling do matter, so always be sure to proofread before giving in a final product. Avoid abbreviations as much as possible because although they make sense to the general eye, it is hard for listeners to pick up on those abbreviations quickly. Numbers usually add nothing but clutter to the copy and make the reader hesitate on words, so be careful when adding numbers to broadcasts. Cliches are sentences or phrases usually expressing a common thought or idea that has lost originality and impact due to overuse. For example, that woman has a heart of gold. No human being actually has a heart of gold. That statement is just implying that that woman is pure in heart. Hyperboles are another form of literature you want to avoid when writing for broadcast. They are nothing but exaggerated statements that can be taken out of content and confuse the listener. However, it is important to remember that adjectives or words or phrases naming an attribute add to the grammatical related noun to modify or describe it. And quotations, which are a group of words taken from text or speech and repeated by someone other than the original author, add substance to the content. When adding quotations, it is important to remember that the listener cannot refer back, so it should be made clear in the beginning who said what. One of the greatest strengths of broadcast news is its immediacy. The attraction to instant distribution of products while events unfold is becoming more and more popular. So with this being said, it is important to remember that when writing for broadcast, it should always be written in the active and perfect tense. Avoid repetition as much as possible because to the ear, these can be confusing. Find alternative words if you must use a word more than once, but always be sure to be clear and concise. News style books are the key to a successful newsroom, and it is important to remember that the information in them should not be taken lightly. Avoid cliches like the plague because they cause confusion. Never use a metaphor, simile, or other figure of speech which you are used to seeing in print that may sound confusing when just heard. Never use a long word where a short word can work. Always be clear and concise. If it is possible to cut a word out, cut it out. Avoid repetition at all costs. And remember that immediacy is the key to successful news. Never use the passive where you can use the active. If you remember these things, it'll be simple to always keep the listener informed and so they are never confused. Again, my name is Melanie Coleman, and this has been Broadcast News Style Book. Thank you for listening.